All right. Hello, welcome to what's going to be a discussion around the chapter Labor from Carlyle's Past and Present with Rasid here, who is another of Carlyle scholar. Will I call you a scholar of Carlyle, or will I call you just an admirer?
Usually scholars read the entire works rather than skimming parts and like going, "Oh, this is cool." So,
Admirer, though.
So I think more like a Carlyle enthusiast. Carlyle enthusiast is much better. Some of the works of Carlyle I like a lot. I think the hero worship, like I'm on the edge of my seat while reading it. But a work like Past and Present, that only can be said for these two chapters that we're going to read right now. I skimmed through the entire thing yesterday, and I found myself just thinking, "Oh my goodness, this is like very dense and kind of to certain." It's a product of its time, basically, and that really shows. Except for these two chapters, which are very interesting. They're way more universal than most of Carlyle's writing. Most of Carlyle's writing is sort of like 1800s England, and it talks about stuff that are happening precisely at those times.
Which I must confess, I kind of find fascinating. I kind of like that. The whole Past and Present is a wide take on a condition of England question, which is, I think, an interesting question of it was expanding so large an empire, but had all these pressures due to sort of a new industrialism, and no society really known how to react to all that. So in that context, I always find those questions interesting. But I think you're right. Like the labor and reward chapters do give an insight into a more, you can take them as more universalist rather than just historical lens with them.
And I'm guessing because I was actually drawn into this book by a review that Ralph Waldo Emerson gave on his magazine. People ran magazines back then. Must have been fun. But
they just do YouTube live streams.
These days Emerson would be like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit
subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe. Emerson would.
Smash that like button. If you want to be more self-reliant, watch another video.
I haven't used the phrase "smash the like button" yet. I'm kind of dreading using it. Okay, so we can crack into it.
Workplace.
We're gonna go through paragraph by paragraph, right? Take it in. One takes it in turns reading,
and then
gives the first response, and then there can be a reply. We don't know where
it's going to go. There can be a small discussion too. It's not strict. Like I have to talk, and if you don't get your point across, then you're done. We have to move on. It's not like that. It's just we're going to be keeping to this basic formula, but we can discuss things. That's completely fine. And I'm kind of sad that my Parmigianino logo from Discord isn't here. But all right, we'll do that next time. I really like that face. Like you have Gilbert Hyde channel, which is nice. He is nice looking. And I had Parmigianino on my Discord, who is this revolutionary artist who basically brought wide scale printing to Italy. But what are you going to do? Hopefully in the reward chapter, I'll add that up.
Okay.
Right, I'm starting Labor by Thomas Carlyle. All righty. For there is a perennial nobleness and even sacredness in work, were he never so benighted, forgetful of his high calling. There is always hope in a man that actually and earnestly works. In idleness alone is there perpetual despair. Work, never so mammonish, mean, is in communication with nature. The real desire to get work done will itself lead one more and more to truth, to nature's appointments and regulations, which are truth. The latest gospel in this world as that poor self of thine.
Oh, I'm losing you a little bit.
Oh, is that so?
It was good until the gospel bit.
Okay. The latest gospel in this world is... Hold on. Let me just... Okay. Hold on a second. Am I connected to the right internet? No crap.
I can hear you.
So is my voice still coming well, or is it, is there a problem?
Just roboted a
connection?
bit during... Carry on.
Okay, hold on. You're good. Okay. I can switch like servers, but all right. If it happens again, I'll try switching servers. Anyhow, work, never so mammonish, is in communication with nature. The real desire to get work done will itself lead one more and more to truth, to nature's appointments and regulations, which are truth. The latest gospel in this world is, know thy work and do it. Know thyself. Long enough has that poor self of thine tormented thee. Thou wilt never get to know it, I believe. Think it not thy business, this of knowing thyself. Thou art an unknowable individual. Know what thou canst work at, and work at it, like a Hercules. That will be thy better plan. So, yeah, right after the first paragraph, he already laid out the entirety of the entire point of the essay, which is basically work is the only salvation in life. And he has, first of all, I have to for someone who doesn't know, and I've learned this by skimming through, I might not be right, but mammonish, I think, is meaning someone who's only interested in material wealth and trying to get money, right?
Yeah. So the god Mammon is serving the false god of money, basically.
Yeah. So he calls work noble, and you cannot know yourself by just trying to philosophizing about it or something of that vein. He's saying that you can only know yourself, you can only show yourself through your work, which it's interesting because I actually remembered a very similar section from Self-Reliance, which is which has a lot of points that are parallel with Carlyle. Let me find that one place. I marked it up. So, nature's appointments and regulations. Okay, hold on. Okay. Do your work, and I will know you. Do your work, and you shall reaffirm yourself.
I suppose while you're finding that, I'll just chime in with some things that that I thought when I read that. I like that. I liked the rebuke, just this immediate rebuke of Descartes. Sort of, I think, therefore I am. You'll never know yourself is kind of linked to that, and it's really an attack upon a lot of the Enlightenment thinking. That would have come from Hume, and even from the historian perspective, Gibbon. That sort of late 18th century Enlightenment thinking that was in England, which had stemmed from Locke and so on. And there is that tradition in Carlyle where a lot of English thinkers reject him because they consider him quote unquote too German to be in the British school of thinking. So it's you can kind of see where they're coming from. People would have found that quite shocking. But I think it's nice. It's it's bold, it's confident, and it's...
Is Descartes all about knowing himself?
No, but it's the think therefore I am statement in particular.
Okay, I think
the whole of work
I actually marked up two parts from the essays, and the second part I just can't find it, so I'm just gonna summarize it anyways. It was too long to begin with, so it's probably best if I just summarize it myself. So basically, Emerson, at part of Self-Reliance, says usually the outward appearance and outward information that a man has does not explain what he is. For instance, if you're a part of some dead church, some dead society, or some dead book club or whatever, if from all of that information, which is another way of saying like your Instagram and Facebook profiles. Usually those don't give an idea of who that person is, usually what they just put out there. What Emerson was saying, from all that information, I can't tell who you are. But if you do your work, then I will know you. Like, do your work and I will know you. Do your work and you will reaffirm yourself. Those were exact quotes. So I think in that way, Emerson quite mirrors Carlyle in that respect. And I think they were released around the same time, Past and Present and first series essays. But yeah, Emerson was a big Carlyle fan from very early on, even before he started writing like Nature. So I think there are definite parallels between there. And the second one is, I believe, so he says, in idleness alone is a perpetual despair. And I actually marked this one with a pencil, so I'm not going to lose it. I should have done it for the first one as well. So he says, in idleness alone is a perpetual despair. So in this manner, like not having worked or like not having contributed to society is the only place where you'll find forever despair. And in that sense, Emerson echoes that thought, although his definition of despair is less what you would call idleness and more not doing your own work, let's say like doing anything other than your work, like even maybe doing a bad job or whatever, like a job that you don't like, for instance. So yeah, he says, a man is relieved and gay when he has put his heart into his work and done his best. But what he has said or done otherwise shall give him no peace. It is a deliverance which does not deliver. In the attempt, his genius deserts him. No muse befriends, no invention, no hope. And at some point he says, I believe, my knowledge of Emerson is more fragmented than I thought. Yeah, but he says at some point, what he has, a man is gay and is, he says that actually in this very line, done his best, but what he has said or done otherwise shall give him no peace. Those are the parts that echo Carlyle's in idleness alone is a perpetual despair. Doing something other than your own work is where despair starts. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a truth in that. I like Emerson's thought. It's always a little bit, sometimes there's a great overlap, but it's always a little bit more reserved or less inculcating of something spiritual, like I don't think he uses the word sacredness, which Carlyle uses straight away in like he goes perennial nobleness first line, and then he kind of almost self-corrects himself. He goes, no, even sacredness, I want to go further. I want this to be some sort of genuine spiritual revelation. Whereas for Emerson, it is a strong revelation. Like in your work, you reveal your true self. But I just feel like it's maybe cushioned a little bit, but it's kind of like more cushioned thought away from the raw spirituality, which Carlyle always wants to dive straight into and sort of never hesitates from. But there's enormous overlap between the two. And I think, largely speaking, it's an interesting one, like, does work reveal who you truly are? Because I think we're going to get to it later. Carlyle does talk about you can't just equate work with sort of fidgety activity, right? There is a sort of an activity in man which is more like being possessed by the devil, which is kind of this more like constant restlessness or a convulsive energy is how Carlyle describes it. So I think there's definitely truth here, and there's definitely it's good. You said you had recorded this line before, right? And used it about the perennial nobleness and sacredness and work to try and as a motivational tool. And I think it definitely has that appeal.
Just this first part where he's going like, you are right. Like he goes like, it keeps on rising. Like my roommate really was like, stop that crap. Like it's really annoying every morning. And at some point, your alarm clock doesn't really work on you. So I only started working on my roommate.
Yeah, of course.
So he would just stand for like 5 minutes of the stuff and just, I stopped making it my alarm after a while, but like during those
that appeal, I think is there, definitely. And other things I would have got from this opening one bar, of course, that sort of rupturing himself from the traditional English school of thought on these sort of things by referencing like know thyself is almost a futile effort, is his invocation of Hercules, because of course Hercules has to do the 12 labors, right? So it's kind of like, well, why is that the term we deem Hercules has to do? He has to do labors in order to prove himself before the gods. Not just, he doesn't have to do a task, or he doesn't have to do a piece of oratory or something, to prove who he is. He has to actually do something physical, and of course Hercules is like such an early hero. He's always portrayed, the club or more primitive weapon. So there's something raw with that invocation. And I
think later on he does show the gods as an example of people that are always working, like what he calls eternally working, because like they're always in the middle of like doing this one thing or the other.
And the other one is Hesiod, who has his works and days, right? So he even has his title is about work. Now it can kind of go off on a rant, Hesiod's works and days, but there was a line from it. I think it starts at one point. Hesiod's talking about two different strifes. One of which, this is kind of like Carlyle's link between the two different types of activity. One is honed in, focused work, and the other is this restless, convulsive energy, this fidgeting, kind of linked to the two strifes of Hesiod, where Hesiod is talking to this guy Perseus, and he says, lay up these things in your heart and do not let that strife who delights in mischief hold your heart back from work. So I thought, when I heard Hercules, I was thinking, I always like that, going back and finding the source in ancient Greece, or finding something to get from them. So I thought that was cool. I think that's like where I was with the intro when I was reading it.
Right. I think the first paragraph is definitely much more representative of the entire essay. But let's move on.
It's kind of like if you were watching a movie, he wants to start with the big open action scene, right?
Especially a comic book. The first chapter is always the biggest, like everything is happening.
I'll go for the second paragraph, right? It has been written, an endless significance lies in work. A man perfects himself by working. Foul jungles are cleared away, fair seed fields rise instead, and stately cities. And withal, the man himself first ceases to be a jungle and foul, unwholesome desert thereby. Consider how, even in the meanest sorts of labour, the whole soul of a man is composed into a kind of real harmony, the instant he sets himself to work. Doubt, desire, sorrow, remorse, indignation, despair itself, all these, like hell dogs, lie beleaguered the soul of the poor day worker, as of every man. But he bends himself with free valour against his task, and all these are stilled. All these shrink, murmuring far off into their caves. The man is now a man. The blessed glow of labour in him. Is it not as purifying fire, wherein all poison is burnt up, and of sour smoke itself there is made bright, blessed flame?
The second
kind of a continuation. I think a difference here, or not a difference, but like a development to his thought, is he's actually showing the antithesis, right? Doubt, desire, sorrow, remorse, indignation, and despair itself all lie like hell dogs. And again, there's kind of a Greek invocation of Cerberus, the three-headed dog that guards. And I liked the fact he was actually listing things like doubt, for instance. I think that's a great agent of inaction, right?
Like he starts talking about work, and then the first thing he mentions is all the trouble you're going to have with work, which is very interesting. And then like he moves on. He starts with all the trouble that you start when you especially start something, and then he goes on to like how you'd see like in Rocky, there's a training montage, and suddenly Rocky's a perfect boxer or something. So like that whole thing happens in the entire paragraph. In just one paragraph, he goes like this and all that happened, despair itself, and then after all that. Labor comes in like purifying fire, and all the poison is burnt up, and like all of that. There's only bright, blessed flame, which is interesting. Yeah.
There's also kind of a phoenix imagery there, I think, with the it's like this flame coming from it. I hadn't got it till now, but just you mentioned it.
Oh yeah.
Because I kind of got. I kind of wrote notes as I was going down through this, but I can't really remember which one I linked to which paragraph.
Yeah, the same problem as I did.
So doubt is an interesting thing, because I know one of the thinkers who comes after Carlyle in his wake is Matthew Arnold. Now, I have a lot of time for Matthew Arnold. I think, like Carlyle, he's really unread, underutilized, specifically as a poet. Sometimes you see him as a critic. He has Culture and Anarchy is a collection of essays by him, which is quite well read, but his poetry really isn't well read, and there's some great stuff in there. But when Simon Heffer in his High Minds book goes through like the course of intellectual thought in England in the 19th century, and Carlyle fades out, Arnold fades in. One of the things you associate with Carlyle with Arnold is this sort of doubt now that doubt is mainly in the role an Anglican church can play in sort of civic life in England and so on, doubt about the existence of God and so on. He wants to reconcile it, but he struggles. And that is something when you're reading Carlyle, that it does leave you with a different feeling to reading Arnold. Carlyle dispels doubt. He just throws it away straight away. Like there's no hesitation in him.
It's quite interesting because doubt has a big place in Western philosophy, I think. I was reading a book on a certain Eastern philosophy, and like the guy who was talking about that said doubt, like a Western philosopher was interpreting a Chinese philosopher by saying that the problem of the Chinese philosopher was having doubt about something, and then the interpreter was saying no, the Chinese was not even mentioning anything about doubt. It's just that since Western philosophy is 70% doubt, the Western philosopher simply thought that he was talking about doubt. I think this was in the context of the butterfly, the dream of the butterfly. Do you know that story?
No, not off the top of my
head. It's very short. Very short. It's just the guy has a dream where he's a butterfly and then wakes up, thinks, so am I a butterfly dreaming I'm a man, or am I a man dreaming I'm a butterfly? So, the actual Chinese story was that it doesn't matter that if he is a butterfly dreaming that he's a man, or is a man dreaming that he's a butterfly, they're both coexisting. So in that sense, Western philosophy has a lot more, deals with doubt a lot more. So the way that Carlyle is sort of dispelling that, which is very interesting. Do you think he didn't have any doubts in his life?
Yeah, well, he definitely did, but I don't think they came out. Certainly not the same way as an Arnold was. There's too much energy to Carlyle. He was meant to be a fantastic orator as well. People would come round to his house to hear him basically speak for hours and hours about anything. You could throw him any topic and he'd throw his energy into it and just go. And he would talk like, he writes like he talks, and he talked like he writes.
Which is not Emerson at all. I think Carlyle's wife had remarked when Emerson came to visit was that, oh my goodness, this guy talks like a normal person. It doesn't at all sound like a prophet. He's just and when you like challenge him, he just concedes. What the hell? Like just thinking this guy is like a lion in his essays. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think to overcome doubt, Carlyle likes to insert himself into the convulsion. He doesn't like to be that overseer of events. Like he thinks that's not for man to be that thing, to kind of, I'm removed and now I'm viewing this as something removed from it. Carlyle would never see that as, he's like, no, you just insert yourself into, and that kind of leads into his idea of work. You insert yourself into the sphere, into wherever the movement is, and then because you're so swept up in the flow, doubt itself kind of ebbs away.
Anyhow,
recedes.
should we move on to
the you go ahead with the next one.
So just like the dream of the butterfly image, I think there's a new image that Carlyle introduces in this one paragraph, and I'm going to get to it. Destiny, on the whole, has no other way of cultivating us. A formless chaos once set it revolving. My niece has just entered the room. I'm gonna. Her mother is. Okay. I'm staying with my brothers for the weekend because there's like a lockdown.
Yes. Anyhow. It's global.
All right. Anyhow, destiny, on the whole, has no other way of cultivating us. A formless chaos once set it revolving. Grows round and even rounder, ranges itself by mere force of gravity into strata. Spherical courses is no longer a chaos, but a round, compacted world. What would become of the earth did she cease to revolve? In the poor old earth, so long as she revolves, all inequalities, irregularities disperse themselves. All irregularities are incessantly becoming regular. Hast thou looked on the potter's wheel? One of the venerablest objects, old as the prophet Ezekiel, and far older. Rude lumps of clay, how they spin themselves up by mere quick whirling into beautiful circular dishes. And fancy the most assiduous potter, but without his wheel, reduced to make dishes, or rather, amorphous botches, by mere kneading and baking. Even such a potter were destiny, with a human soul that would rest and lie at ease, that would not work and spin, of an idle, unrevolving man, the kindest destiny, like the most assiduous potter without wheel, can bake and knead nothing other than a botch. Let her spend on him what expensive coloring, what gilding and enameling she will. He is but a botch, not a dish, no, a bulging, kneaded, crooked, shambling, squint-cornered, amorphous botch. A mere vessel, enameled vessel of dishonor. Let the idle think of this. So the first image we're introduced to is this potter's wheel, which is shown as basically an allegory for the continuous action of the earth and the continuous spinning that sort of helps keep the vase's shape. Which is interesting. He views work in general, like not like painting or like drawing or like lifting stones or writing poetry, just work in general as a sort of spinning force that helps draw out the irregularities and inequalities. That's what I find. This part is actually what I find most inspiring about this essay, which is probably why I recorded it and like read it so many times. It's very interesting. What do you think about work as just work in general as this spinning force that draws out the irregularities? Do you think that's what work is?
I think what he's going for here, and it was a good image, like I noticed it myself, linking the spinning of potter's wheel with sort of centripetal or gravitational forces is just, I think it's very good imagery, brilliant use of especially England at the time, right? Around Stoke-on-Trent, pottery would have been this huge industry, so it would have chimed with a lot of the more working class at the time. What he's getting at as well is chaos, right? So when the planets form due to that sort of spinning, he sees that as the matter's getting compacted, and so something's getting created out of chaos. So the vacuum of space he considers a chaos, and I think he talks about that in Reward. when he talks about how stars guide us. I might save that for later when we get to it, but there's a whole thing about stars guiding us because their light shines through the chaos of the empty vacuum of space. So I think, to link something which was really grounded in industry everyone could relate to at the time, such as a potter's wheel, with that creation of something from the vacuum of space, I think was quite good. And I think that's what he's getting at, is like, if you work and create forces like that, you do quell your own vacuousness.
And there can be something said about the inequalities part. Like, you draw out the inequalities by working, which you can see it in like an economic sense as creating value, creates a more prosperous nation where you can have a more equal life standing, like in some countries like Norway or whatever. But I think we should get to economics, like in reward. I think this this chapter doesn't give us enough. But it's interesting.
One of the things, though, that the potter's wheel imagery, and I'm thinking of like industrial Britain, and we're quite far into now what you would consider post-industrial Britain, right?
Yeah,
it's post-empire. There's the element of the receding greatness, so on. But he talks about how the reward, the nobleness is perennial, right? In the first paragraph, and you do think like, what would he have made of post-industrial? Because of course he's trying to grapple so much with industrial, and how does man find comfort, and more than comfort, like a spiritual satisfaction in this new industrial world we're inhabiting. So it's like, I wonder how would he equate that to what we're experiencing now? People talk about UBIs, and there's always this talk about a post-work society and all of this sort of stuff. I think he would
idleness is in vogue.
I think he'd react with absolute horror to it.
Idleness is in vogue more than ever.
Yeah, and he would talk, like, I think of a movie like Train Spotting, right, in Glasgow, around sort of this idleness leading to. It's just like Train Spotting is like late 90s movie about drug addicts in Glasgow, but Glasgow, of course, was like a shipbuilding hub for Britain, and post-industry, there's just working-age men came to the right age that would have been on those ships in previous generations. That idleness led to despair. I think Carlyle would have been like, well, this is
that's what drives the opioid epidemic in the United States, for instance, right?
Yes, they were seeing that right now. Yeah, things that we've seen in the last few decades in Britain, I think, you're seeing on a larger scale in the United States now as well. And Trump was kind of like in his own mad way, was like voted in, to bring back jobs and all that on the West Virginia, keep coal, Trump dig coal, and keep everything in here because it could keep people working.
I think Clinton was going around saying like, we're going to get rid of coal jobs, like right onto people's faces. I'm not at all surprised she lost. I was expecting Biden to lose too, but like coronavirus, whatever.
Yeah, but it was it was tighter than I think and it's tighter than the media people were pretending it was.
Like, fourth episode will not end if we start talking about elections now. But it's very
interesting to compare man's need for work to the energy that propelled Trump.
That part, definitely.
Try and make it contemporary.
Those ideas are still like revolving around, and some of them, like idleness, right now is being defended to an extent that it has never been defended. Usually people thought you were being
in the coronavirus as well.
Crazy.
They're making idleness a virtue, which is
that's really weird. In fact,
there's
like,
German. I don't know if it's still the German trailer where there's like they pretend it's an old man in a documentary series in like 7 years, and he's like talking about how they did this great work 7 years ago in 2020 by sitting on my couch.
I just mentioned my niece coming into the room. Let me make that into a relevant topic, so it's not just annoyance. But yesterday we were watching Kids Channel with my niece, and like there was a kids show all about how great it was to stay at home and just do everything at home, which is very interesting. Like it even goes to children's programming, this type of stuff.
I'd be quite right wing in my thinking, but there's this left wing thinker I like reading. I don't always agree with him, but his mind goes in interesting places, called Adam Tooze. He wrote kind of histories, and he's kind of stemmed into economics as well. But he was calling it back in March. It was just like, if this is, when people were really panicking, they didn't know how grave it would be or otherwise. It was like, it's very strange, because there's warlike cabinets are sort of being convened, but they're telling everyone to demobilize. Whereas if there's a war, you mobilize. And it's just that weird, people can't really gear themselves up for something that is ultimately a demobilization. I just think it's just such a strange phenomenon. Carlyle wouldn't have, he would have been like, just mobilize, because the effects of demobilization would be far worse than anything else. And, work through, kind of like Dante, you go through hell, you just work through it. Like maybe have people working in health sectors to improve.
At least have people, outdoor dying, for God's sake. I can't go to cafes anymore. That's so insane.
I don't know if you have anything else for that one, then I might move on to next.
Yeah, let's hold on. Last time I think I read it, so this time.
Yeah.
Blessed is he, I think.
Blessed, yeah. Blessed is he who has found.
Before that, you can still hear me, right? There's no weird.
No, you're sounding perfect.
Oh, wonderful. Great.
Blessed is he who has found his work. Let him ask no other blessedness. He has a work, a life purpose. He has found it and will follow it. How is a free-flowing channel dug and torn by noble force, through the sour mud swamp of one's existence, like an ever-deepening river there, it runs and flows, draining off the sour, festering water, gradually from the root of the remotest grass blade, making, instead of pestilential swamp, a green fruitful meadow with its clear flowing stream. How blessed for the meadow itself, let the stream and its value be great or small. Labor is life. From the inmost heart of the worker rises his God-given force, the sacred celestial life essence, breathed into him by Almighty God. From his inmost heart awakens him to all nobleness, to all knowledge, self-knowledge, and much else, so soon as work fitly begins. Knowledge? The knowledge that will hold good in working, cleave thou to that, for nature herself accredits that, says yea to that. Properly thou hast no other knowledge but what thou hast got by working. The rest is yet all a hypothesis of knowledge, a thing to be argued of in schools, a thing floating in the clouds, in endless logic vortices, till we try it and fix it. Doubt, of whatever kind, can be ended by action alone. So that's it. I think that's an interesting one. Mainly because it's almost attacking knowledge there in a ivory tower, removed from the populist sort of sense of knowledge, that it's like a floating cloud. And I think I'm not fully with him on that. I think there is a great element in gaining knowledge that doesn't simply give itself maybe immediately to work, right? So I've been kind of in my spare time reading Carlyle and other sort of thinkers, for a long time that was just knowledge building up, but I wouldn't say it was pointless, But then again, he would probably bite back at that and be talking about, well, now you're trying to crystallize it, now you're trying to do something solid, and you do get that itch, right? Even if you build up knowledge, that you eventually want to execute something in relation to it. So
he did
a point, but sometimes you don't know where you're going with it, but you do want to learn more. So sometimes you don't always know immediately how it's going to turn into work, maybe, is what I'd kind of caveat that with.
The one thing I sort of saw in this particular part is that I think it's the first time he ever mentions God, like life essence breathed into him by Almighty God, which is, I find Carlyle's concept of God very confusing to an extent. Like in Heroes, he talks about religion, and especially in these two chapters, he talks about religion as work itself. So he does mention God occasionally, and I do find it kind of strange, because I don't think like Emerson does that as much. Emerson is much more of a pantheist. So if he like mentions God, it's usually like nature or like something else. He would not say, I think God gives you the power to like work or whatever. So what do you think about that?
I think, yeah, Carlyle loves asserting those words like sacred. So I think he has indirectly gone there. Though, yeah, there's something about the name drop, especially in the way he does it. Almighty God, almost like a prayer. I don't know. I think
a combo too. Like
right.
God giving force to sacred celestials, life essence breathed into them. Like so much stuff.
You're almost not meant to take a breath when you're reading that, because it's just Carlyle just going pure rant, just life essence, celestial being. But yeah. I think I think you're right in that you'd read different works, and like, of course, his first lecture on hero worship, he calls hero as God, Odin. So that doesn't quite square. Like,
well, I don't think he believes that. I think he does say at some point, like, usually people wouldn't believe their fellow countrymen to be like a god. Now, yes, I think he does say that at some point.
But he actually doesn't mean that that's false. I think he talks that there was a truth in how they believed it there and then, and because there was such a truth in it, was it not sort of veritably a fact? Sort of, that's kind of how the phraseology he would use. So it's tricky to get, like, it's more like, what does he concede to be true, and what is a truth, and then like he will equate a god to that. So if he finds something satisfactorily true, he will equate that to sort of God's weaving, but then he kind of will say stuff like that was true to the Scandinavian pagans, but it's not true today. And you're kind of like, well, where do you believe? What do you believe then? Because I don't think he believed in pure
Christian God.
Yeah, but also pure relativism, right? Oh no, definitely didn't believe in the Anglican Church, but like, he doesn't believe in pure relativism either. That this society has this belief and the other one has the other belief, and it's all just relative. I think he did believe in an overarching truth of things. So it's difficult to pin down. Yeah, I think it would take more of my reading and like notes and really to try and come up with the theory of Carlyle's God, because it's a complicated piece.
But it's definitely an interesting like future essay topic maybe. Anyhow, there's an argument going on. Anyhow, so I'm continuing on.
Go ahead.
And here's an interesting thought. Doubt of whatever kind can be ended by action alone. This can go on our quotes Discord. Go ahead, nice.
Yes. I created that channel for the quotes.
Cool. Yeah. And again, hast thou valued patience, courage, perseverance, openness to light, readiness to own thyself mistaken, to do better next time. All these, all virtues, in wrestling with the dim brute powers of fact, in ordering of thy fellows in such wrestle, there and elsewhere, not at all, thou wilt continually learn. Set down a brave Sir Christopher in the middle of black ruined stone heaps, of foolish unarchitectural bishops, red tape officials, idle nail-gwyn defenders of the faith, and see whether he will raise a Paul's cathedral out of all that. Yea or no. Rough, rude, contradictory are all things and persons, from the mutinous masons and Irish hodmen, up to the idle nail-gwyn defenders, the blustering red tape officials, foolish unarchitectural bishops. All these things and persons are there not for Christopher's sake and his cathedrals. They are there for their own sake mainly. Christopher will have to conquer and constrain all these, if he be able. All these are against him. Equitable nature herself, who carries her mathematics and architectonics, not on the face of her, but deep in the hidden heart of her. Nature herself is but partially for him, will be wholly against him, if he constrain or not. His very money, where is it to come from? The pious munificence of England lies far scattered, distant, unable to speak, and say, I am here, must be spoken to before it can speak. Pious munificence and all help is so silent, invisible like the gods. Impediment, contradictions, manifold are so loud and near. O brave Sir Christopher, thrust thou in those, notwithstanding, and front all these, understand all these, by valiant patience, noble effort, insight, by man's strength, vanquish and compel all these, and on the whole, strike down victoriously the last topstone of that Paul's edifice, thy monument for certain centuries, the stamp great man impressed very legibly on Portland stone there. Yes, all manner of help and pious response from man or nature is always what we call silent, cannot speak or come to light till it be seen, till it be spoken to. Every noble work is at first impossible. In very truth, for every noble work the possibilities will lie diffused through immensity, inarticulate, undiscoverable, except to faith. Like Gideon, thou shalt spread out thy fleece at the door of thy tent. See whether under the wide arch of heaven there be any bounteous moisture, or none. Thy heart and life purpose shall be as a miraculous Gideon's fleece, spread out in silent appeal to heaven, and from the kind immensities, what from the poor unkind localities, and town and country parishes there never could, blessed dew moisture to suffice thee shall have fallen. Oh my God, this was very long.
You got there. Like that was the big one. I actually had scrolled down. I was like, oh, he's giving himself the larger ones here.
Oh my God. No, I did not. If I knew that, I would actually start with the second paragraph. My notes actually stop at that one paragraph. And, oh my goodness.
There's a lot in it. Some of it's like, where's he going? Yeah. I like the invocation of Christopher Wren. Building St. Paul's. When he talks about Christopher, he's talking about Christopher Wren, the architect of St. Paul's. Like, how do you? Again, that gets into work.
I thought he meant Christopher Columbus.
Oh, sorry. Does he?
Because, I think he.
When he mentions Paul's Cathedral. Actually, you're right as well. At one point, I think I was reading it, and I did think about Christopher. But he says,
later he says, Columbus, my hero.
The Sir Christopher is definitely Wren. Yeah.
I don't think he calls anyone my hero. That sounds like something.
Yeah. Oh, I think actually, that's coming up in a later paragraph, the Columbus bit.
You don't have to worry about in this particular paragraph. You don't have to worry about the sequence of who's gonna talk first, because I'm I need some time after reading this. But yeah, so. About that, Christopher Wren, the architect, I think.
Yes. So what he's talking about, I think, execution, right? So he creates something like St. Paul's, which is of such legacy and endurance. How did the conception turn into execution? And it did so through work, right? So I think even St. Paul's, if I have it here, isn't completed till 1711. And the first designs happened in 1666 after the Great Fire of London. So it's something that's almost 50 years in the making. And I think, that's 50 years of work poured into it. And I think if you've ever seen the London skyline as well, there's loads of new buildings have propped up in the financial district, which tower above St. Paul's, but somehow still St. Paul's dominates the skyline in a way the others can't. And Carlyle probably would have said it's something like because it was the work that went into it, that it took those years, and that it was the design and the fed in. And of course, there's the idea is it's a place of sacred worship as well. But there's something to that. We can build so tall and so quick now, but it doesn't have the same effect looking on it. I don't know if you have any opinion on that.
Yeah, the cathedrals did take like very long time. Sometimes even like 2 architects would be working on it till the end of their lives. But yeah, it's very interesting, and they're built quite like sturdy too. That's always what intrigues me about them, because like you look at these buildings which are like mostly glass, and you think like, what the hell were these guys thinking making these buildings at those times, especially like when they had to do a lot of the stuff by hand. So yeah, cathedrals are definitely a testament to like how much you can like push work to its limits. It's kind of like landing on the moon, but like smaller.
Probably more. He would have liked that though, Carlyle, the landing on the moon.
Oh yeah, he would have loved the.
You're breaking up a little bit there.
Yeah. Oh, really?
A tiny bit there, yeah. But yeah, like because in the moon traversion, it's yeah, you switch if you need to, but the moon traversion is like it's
okay. So the thing is, if I switch internet servers, I'm gonna be like out of internet for like a few seconds. That costs me to get out of StreamYard.
Let's just continue. I don't think you're breaking up badly enough to warrant it. Nah, don't switch then, because we're 50 minutes in, and I don't think.
Okay.
I don't think you're breaking up badly enough to warrant it. Yeah. So like the moon landing, they actually propelled themselves through that vacuum, through that chaos, right? So he would have really liked that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
Indeed.
Do you have anything else? Like he mentions Gideon's fleece. There's a couple of.
Yeah. So Gideon's fleece. So, well, the parts that I quite noticed was every noble work is at first impossible. So he starts with saying like it's kind of this idea that you can't really know how things are going to go, because when he says every noble work seems at first impossible, he means that you can't fathom it. Like you can't fathom how this is going to work. But he does say with labor you can reach there. With like with doing rather than thinking, you can reach there. Which kind of reminded me of, I don't know if you read it, Anti-Fragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
I haven't actually read that one, but I'm aware of it, and I have read Taleb. I've read 2 of his books.
Oh. Yeah, like that Anti-Fragile's whole point was that you're better at like experimenting and finding a practical purpose than just theorizing an idea and just going straight with the theory. So yeah, in that sense, that made me think of that quite a bit. And yeah, I like that quite a bit, because like I work in a business that's like I don't understand how actually social media works, but I do like content for it, and I watch out for what works, and I build upon that to get better results. So a lot of people will tell you about, oh, you can build your social channel by doing this, but there's no really big way rather than just experimenting with it. So this really intrigued me. Like he actually, unlike a lot of philosophers who are like very stuck on theory, Carlyle just goes into like, yeah, it might seem impossible, but you can only overcome doubt with action. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's true. You can only overcome doubt with action. So then, like, yeah, there's a caveat to that, which is the scale of the doubt requires the scale of the action, and are you up for the task of the scale of the action, and so on. But roughly speaking, yes, that definitely works. And I've worked in industries like software, and the one thing that came out of Silicon Valley, like as a practice or as a maxim that was good, that worked, was this idea of fail fast. Which was just encouraging people to get out there, trip, fall on your face. But if you fall on your face after 2 minutes, get back up and then jump over that hurdle. It's better than if you were 5 minutes staring at the fence, wondering how you're going to get over it, right? So in that, there is that injection of action, and you just keep going and then you actually end up making further progress.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, we can move on, I think, from Gideon's fleece. And we've been in it for like 4 minutes. So,
do you want? You want to finish this in one go, or how do you? This is a small paragraph, and a big one again.
Oh my god! I just saw the paragraph. It's like tiny. Okay, let me do this.
Yeah, and then I'll wrap up.
After that, it's like Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Work is of a religious nature. Work is of a brave nature, which it is the aim of all religion to be. All work of man is as the swimmer's. A waste ocean threatens to devour him. If he front it not bravely, it will keep its word, by incessant wise defiance of it, lusty rebuke and buffet of it. Behold how it loyally supports him, bears him as its conqueror along. It is so, says Goethe, with all things that man undertakes in this world. I might have butchered Goethe. I don't know how to say his name. Sorry.
American.
It is so, says Goethe, that man undertakes in this world. How do you actually say Goethe?
I said Goethe.
Oh yeah. Oh, Goethe.
There's no
Goethe. Like there's no R. So Goethe. Okay.
Some Americans say Goethe.
Yeah, like I see it all the time. Where's the R? I'm thinking. Yeah, whatever. So my initial thoughts on this is working into a topic that's actually going to come up so many times in Reward, which is work is religion. Which is that religion, as you know, you would practice like by going to church maybe, and I would practice by like praying maybe. Those are not actual religion. The religion is what we do as work, which is very interesting. I mean, I definitely like that religion more. I don't really pray myself. I do like to think like your own work and what you're doing with your life, and like where you are creating value is where you can converse with God in so to say, like someone with more like an Emersonian bent might say that, for instance, like me. So that I like that, and the idea that you're fighting with an ocean, and once you've fought with it well enough, then it obeys your commands. I might not agree with that last part. Now that I think about it, you're definitely fighting with that ocean all the time. I don't think it ever comes to a point where the ocean is so nice to you that it'll just simply push you back. You might get better at fighting the ocean, but the ocean is still there, I think. I'm not very sure what Carlyle is going for here. What do you think about it?
I think he sees the ocean as similar to the way he's seeing the vacuum of space, that it's this great expanse, this great unknown. You can think of it as the body of work that lies before you, of which you may doubt your ability to assail that. But he's setting that up with where the next paragraph's going. But I think at this point as well, though, I was taking notes on the swimming, right? That all work of man is like the swimmers. And it's really interesting that England's oldest epic, Beowulf, of course, one of the stories that Beowulf tells when he arrives at the hall, where he has to fight Grendel, he's telling of his exploits in a big swimming contest, and it was just an interesting invocation, because the epic is, you can link that back to Hercules and his labor. The epics is all about this labor someone has to do. So when Carlyle talks about swimming, I did get that image in my head of Beowulf he proves himself to the doubters in the hall, again, doubt coming in there, by recanting this tale of the swim, that he was able to go out and swim, and then there's sea monsters as well and everything involved. But there's this, it's the Beowulf's conquering the swim gives people the belief in him that he will then be able to defeat Grendel. And similarly, more contemporarily, it made me think of this movie. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's quite a kind of niche one called Gattaca. Have you ever seen Gattaca?
Sorry, no.
Well, Gattaca. It's kind of based in this genetics future, right, where people's are kind of test tube babies. They're all born with these, pre-planned and pre-printed genetic code, which makes them really superior at whatever their parents specifically wanted them to be so at. And there's this one child who's born of nature, which means he has to conquer everything he wants to do, and he wants to go into outer space as well, to see Saturn, because it's based in like this near future where they're doing missions to Saturn's moons.
So he's not born with any existing ability.
Yeah, he was just born of naturally.
Normal. Okay.
Yeah, but back then, in this setting, it's an anomaly. So, everything he does is by sheer force of will, and you could say action and determination to work, right? So, and one of the climaxes, the kind of emotional climax of the movie, is he has this other brother who was born of the pre-planned genetics to be really good at this and that, and they have this swimming contest where it's who can swim the furthest until like the other person just completely runs out of all energy and effort and gives up. And the natural born guy could never do it as a kid, and then they re-meet as older people, and he's so determined that he can swim further. And this thing called the other side, where he says the reason he can then start to beat the his brother, who's like this pre-coded, meant to be really good at it, brother, is because he says he twisted his mind while swimming to never hold anything back for the swim back. That when I go out and start swimming, I'm already thinking about reaching the other side. And then in that emotional climax, they also use the sea the same way Carlyle's using the sea here, as the unconquerable expanse before somebody. And then, so like, I just thought it tied in with that movie's climax really well, made me think about it. So that's that thing, like you can beat the unconquerable expanse of the sea by thinking about the other side, seeing if you're going to get there.
Yeah, definitely. The sea is a good analogy. I just kind of see it's like weird to think that once you conquer it, that's it. I think life is
no, I think I agree with you on that one. What exact line there is he incessant wise?
He says that I don't know if he's actually quoting Goethe. I don't know. He just says, as far as quoting goes, he says it is so. So maybe Goethe said something of that kind and said later it is so.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. But it does say, so behold how it loyally supports him. That's part. Bears him as its conqueror alone. Yeah, I'm not sure if he means like the entire thing or just that one section where he was fighting. I'm not sure.
Because I think even like a hardened sailor, you think of especially like a maritime age, right, where the boats are much more flimsy and stuff. They'd always be like, every trip is a gamble. You never know what's on the next wave. There is no conquering sea, and they have a reverence for the sea. Some of them you could even say go back to like becoming pagan, like a Neptunian worship of the sea, because they realize it's a more powerful beast than them. So I think there is I don't know if it's Goethe or if it's Carlyle, but that like idea that you can beat the sea. It's not like reaching the crest of a hill and then everything's downhill again. Like there's rolling waves and you don't know what's coming around the corner at you. But working through it as an expanse, that works as well. Will I wrap this up then with the last paragraph? Or unless you have anything to say about that.
Mm-hmm. Let's wrap this up with the last part. Let's look with this. I just checked it.
Cool. I'll go. Brave sea captain, North Sea king, Columbus, my hero, royalist sea king of all. It is no friendly environment, this of thine, in the waist-deep waters, around thee mutinous, discouraged souls, behind thee disgrace and ruin, before thee the unpenetrated veil of night. Brother, these wild water mountains, bounding from their deep bases 10 miles deep, I am told, are not entirely there on thy behalf. Meseems they have other work than floating thee forward. And the huge winds that sweep from Ursa Major to the tropics and equators, dancing their giant waltz through the kingdoms of chaos and immensity, they care little about filling rightly or filling wrongly the small shoulder of mutton sails in this cockle skiff of thine. Thou art not among the articulate speaking friends, my brother. Thou art among immeasurable dumb monsters, tumbling, howling wide as the world here. Secret, far off, invisible to all hearts but thine. There lies a help in them. See how thou wilt get at that. Patiently, thou wilt wait till the mad southwester spend itself, saving thyself by dexterous science of defence. The while, valiantly, with swift decision, thou strike in, when the favouring east the possible springs up, Mutiny of men thou wilt sternly repress, weakness, despondency. Thou wilt cheerily encourage. Thou wilt swallow down complaint, unreason, weariness, weakness of others and thyself. How much wilt thou swallow down? There shall be a depth of silence in thee, deeper than the sea, which is but 10 miles deep. A silence unsoundable, known to God only. Thou shalt be a great man, wise, my world soldier, thou of the world marine service. Thou wilt have to be greater than this tumultuous, unmeasured world here round thee is. Thou in thy strong soul, as with wrestler's arms, shalt embrace it, harness it down, and make it bear thee on to new Americas, or whither God wills. So there we have the final paragraph. Invocation of Columbus. I think there's a lot about what I said, like reaching the other side, like the fact that Columbus reached the other side, the immensity, is kind of what he's getting at there. I don't know if you have anything else. It's just kind of powerful words. Even if it's a little rambly.
Powerful words, and very rambly. Like he just sort of, it's almost like he knows this is the last paragraph in this essay, so he's like trying to go get out all his ideas. And he even like, oh my goodness, there are so many images in this thing, and they're not at all easy, like the Potter's Wheel, where he just spent like, he goes from spending 2 paragraphs on one image to spending 1 paragraph in 10 images, which is very, it's kind of annoying, but he mentions a few things that I find interesting. I mentioned this in my initial message too, like when I was saying, oh, why don't we talk about this? He says that there shall be a depth of silence within thee, deeper than the sea. When he's talking about you'll get resistance. So what do you think he means by depth of silence? Is it just a fancy word, or is he actually talking about something there? I mean, I took it as this. I took it as there will be people that are trying to like verbally attack you, or like I don't know if physically. I don't know if he talks about physical attacks, but I think he talks about there will be people who resist you with their words, and for that you will have to have like a depth of silence within yourself where those words can sink in and die. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a point to that. I haven't really kind of thought about it like that. Maybe I thought about it slightly different flavor, but the way you're talking about there reminds me is like that's quite stoic, right? There's a stoicism being invoked here.
Yeah.
Fortitude as a virtue. I was thinking of silence as reverence. Silence as, because if you think about, say, the Quaker religion, for instance, they just worship in pure silence, right? And if someone feels compelled to speak, they can, but there's no priest or there's no leader of the flock. They just assemble in silence, and it's kind of, and also when you think about work, I was thinking about how if they're really in a flow of work, they're kind of silent because they're concentrating and they're pouring.
They don't even have an expression most of the time.
Yeah, they're
like you see these violinist players, and they're like playing these extremely complicated stuff, but their faces are just blank. It's interesting. Like you think like, oh, they go or like trying to make facial expressions matching, but no, they're actually completely focused, and their facial expressions are completely blank, as if they're.
So that's what I thought about silence. I was thinking reverence, and then that sort of focus on work. But you're saying as well, that idea of I suppose it does link in.
Well, it talks about swallowing down stuff, swallowing down complaints. So that's where I got the silence from. Like,
yeah.
Have you seen the movie Inside Out? Pixar.
Inside Out. Is that the one with the the 7 little feelings? Yeah, I have seen that.
Yeah. So there's a place there where, like, if you fall off the base sections, you fall into this lower section, which is all black, and you stay there too long, and you'll get forgotten. I felt like the depth of silence is kind of like that, where you just put those feelings at the section where things are just gonna disappear, like as if like that one section isn't just a lower floor, but it's like a sea that when things go inside, they just dissolve. And he's telling people to like put all the complaints and like what does he say? Yeah, like swallow down complaints, unreason, weariness, weakness of others, and thyself. Try to forget all that. I think it's sort of I took it as that. It seemed like that was fitting.
Yeah,
I just thought about the inside out.
Chaos is often like shown to be an abyss of kinds, but there it's more like you create the abyss and can swallow down the complaints. So it's a little strange. Yeah. But yeah, you're right though. He mentions people attacking you. So maybe what I was taking from it is a classic misreading. Funnily enough, I just bought yesterday Harold Bloom's Anxiety of Influence. I don't know if you're aware of this. It's kind of a seminal literary text from the 70s. How like his theory of literature is just people constantly misreading things from what came before, and it like creates this flow of where, for instance, poetry will go towards. So that was me kind of doing that, maybe misreading.
Like Emerson, I think, would encourage misreading because that would mean for him like a new age is interpreting ideas in a completely new manner. But yeah, it's interesting. Of all the movies that like you came up with, like Criterion Collection movies, and I came up with friggin' Pixar, Disney. Which is interesting. Anyhow, yeah, that's what I thought of this one big complex paragraph, and he ends it with like, "To new Americas." It's like, off we go. And yeah, we'll see what happens in the second chapter, I guess. The reward, which is much more dense and where all these ideas sort of come together, and in some manners that I don't quite like, I'm not very comfortable with. But yeah, labor is definitely
yes. He's going to start talking about
great essay.
In reward, he's going to start talking about the wage, right, and the idea of what is a wage for labor, and not just in a purely economical sense. There's a spiritual element, of course, coming in. Yeah. Okay. So we wrapped up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, at that time I would be, because I actually brought in like a special internet box to connect to, and I forgot, and I was still connected to my internet. That's quite a little far away. That's why That's why my voice keeps cutting. But,
yeah. You cut out on the first read.
Hopefully it helped together. Okay. All right. Cool. I'll definitely fix that by next time, and I'll definitely fix the biggest problem of all: lack of Parmigianino faces. Like that old-looking guy, he's actually 36, if you can believe it.
Put a link to him in the Discord, and I might read up on him a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. He's not a writer, so we'll talk about him like later when we talk about heroes. But for now, yeah, we'll continue this in reward. Great talking to you. I definitely learned so much more new stuff about this one essay that I've always been really interested in. It's very it's good to take someone who's actually like within this culture to like interpret some stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Cool.
Well,
see you next time, guys.
Had a great time. See you next time.